Who cut the head off of the Uffington White Horse? This is one of Britain's most famous prehistoric mysteries. Hi, I'm here to talk about megalithic mysteries. And today we're going to be discussing the Uffington White Horse. This is an enormous chalk horse that's been carved into the side of a hill in Oxfordshire. It's 365 feet, or 111 meters long, and it looks out over the surrounding countryside. It's thought to have been created around 2000 BC, and it's the largest of three large chalk figures that are known as the Hill Giants. The others being the Long Man of Wilmington and the Berry Hill figure in Dorset. These date back to the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age, and they were created by cutting turf and soil away to reveal the white chalk beneath. The Uffington White Horse has quite the interesting history, and there are many myths and legends surrounding this site. There was a legend that the horse was carved by the devil himself, and another that said that if you walk around the horse backwards, you can see the devil dancing on its back. Another myth claimed that when the horse was being built, two men fell off the hill and their bones became part of the landscape. There's also a story that says that anyone who kisses the horse will be granted a wish. But this seems like something that might have developed more recently. In the 18th century, there was a landowner who decided to put a drinking fountain at the bottom of the hill so people could have a drink after climbing up to visit the horse. And that drinking fountain still stands there to this day. And as a result of this, many people have ended up kissing the horse to fulfill some sort of wish, perhaps for good luck, or perhaps just because they were there, and why not? After all, kissing a giant horse seems like harmless fun. And as far as I know, nobody's wish has yet been granted. During the Second World War, anti-aircraft guns were placed near the horse, and the area around the horse was used as an anti-tank obstacle course. So the horse itself was never actually harmed, but it did witness some action. In the mid-19th century, there was a campaign to protect the white horse from those that would seek to destroy it. This was largely successful, and there are now laws in place that forbid anyone from damaging the white horse. However, despite this, in 1964, someone did try to chop off its head. Someone climbed onto the horse and attempted to damage it with a hammer and chisel. They managed to chip away a piece of the horse's head, but the job was far too big for them. It would take far too long for them to do any real damage, and they were instead spotted by police and arrested. This was not the first time the horse had been damaged, however. Sometime prior to 1964, someone had already tried to hack off the horse's head, but they had failed and left after chipping away a bit of the neck. These attempts to destroy the horse were both carried out by men that were known to local police as troublemakers. It's believed that they simply wanted to get into the newspapers. One of them later claimed that he'd only done it to relieve boredom. Both of these incidents caused public outcry, and the police vowed to do everything they could to catch the culprits. The man who tried to hack off the head in 1964 was sentenced to 4 months in prison after being found guilty of criminal damage. But there's a third mystery that we need to discuss, because there's a much older attempt to damage the white horse that's been hidden beneath the surface. In 2009, archaeologists began surveying the area around the horse, and they used a special camera to scan the ground beneath. They discovered a pit that was almost 20 feet deep, or 6 meters deep, which had been dug underneath the horse's head. They couldn't confirm who dug this pit or when, but they estimated that it dated back to sometime before the year 1400. To understand how archaeologists came to this conclusion, and to understand just how old this chalk horse is, we need to go back to the beginning. It's important to understand how the horse was made, because the creators of the horse didn't just turn up one day and start carving. They would have needed to plan this out ahead of time, and they would have needed to use tools such as surveying equipment to make sure they carved the horse in the right orientation and that they carved it facing in the right direction. This kind of planning suggests that the horse would have held some kind of importance to its creators. Perhaps it was seen as a link between the spiritual and material worlds. Maybe it was a symbol of power. We don't really know. Archaeologists know that the builders of the horse didn't live in permanent settlements. They were nomadic, and they moved from place to place. If they did want to leave something behind that would last a very long time, they would have had to build something incredibly sturdy. A large henge monument would have been one option, but the White Horse may have been seen as something more special, something that could hold a higher level of significance. The idea of building a huge horse into the hillside is pretty unique, but the builders of the White Horse weren't completely original. Around 25 miles away, on another hilltop, there's another huge horse carved into the side of a hill. This is the Ridgway Horse, and although it's much smaller than the Uffington White Horse, it was clearly the inspiration for the builders. The Ridgway Horse dates back to between 1700 and 1500 BC, making it around 200 years older than the Uffington White Horse. It seems likely that the Uffington White Horse was created during the Late Bronze Age, which lasted from around 2200 BC until 1500 BC. When the Bronze Age ended, the people who built monuments like this stopped doing so. Perhaps they were forced off the land by invaders. Perhaps they changed their ways once metal tools became more widely available. Or perhaps they were simply replaced by newer religions, ones that didn't involve the construction of massive figures into hillsides. So that brings us back to the pit. This must have been dug in modern history, right? Well, not quite. It turns out that the builders of the White Horse knew about the pit, and they built the horse with the pit already there. Archaeologists were able to tell this because they discovered burnt material at the bottom of the pit. This material was sent off for radiocarbon dating, and it was found to date back to sometime between 830 and 615 BC. That makes it over 2,700 years old, meaning it predates the horse by at least 400 years. But why would the builders of the White Horse continue to use a site that was already tainted? Well, they probably didn't think of it that way. The Bronze Age people wouldn't have viewed the pit in the same way that we view it. It would have been nothing more than an inconvenience. Perhaps the pit was the result of ritual activity that had taken place there before. Either way, the builders of the White Horse didn't let it deter them. They simply built their horse around it. So who built the horse and why? That's something we still don't know. It's possible that it was the same people who built nearby Avebury, since there is evidence that shows that they built a ceremonial site somewhere within the vicinity of the White Horse. Avebury is one of England's most impressive stone circles, and it was constructed during the late Neolithic period, sometime before 2600 BC. The thing that confuses me the most about the White Horse is that the builders didn't just build it once. At some point, someone decided that they wanted to extend it. So they added a tail and a neck, and at some point even more work was done to lengthen the body of the horse. You can see where the additions were made because the quality of carving is not as high and the horse does not appear as detailed in these areas. It's possible that the horse was somehow linked to the nearby Ridgway Horse, since the distance between the two horses is roughly the same as the distance between the sun and the moon. The distance between these two horses is 26 miles, and the distance between the sun and the moon is 27 miles. But this is just a theory, and there's no solid evidence to support it. The entire mystery of the horse's origins is frustrating, because archaeologists haven't found a single artifact near the horse. They haven't found a single piece of pottery or a flint tool or anything that could help them date the horse or shed some light on who built it. There is just the horse, and then there's that pit. Who dug it and why? What purpose did it serve and what was it used for? Unfortunately, we'll probably never know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I'd like to thank my supporters. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you next time.